Yeah, Richard, tell me about how you first got interested in using the arts as a way to channel, therapy in a way of getting some things off your mind and off your heart to kind of see a brighter future.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't plan on going into the arts or into music or storytelling. I honestly had just something inside of me, and I think a lot of songwriters have something inside them they just want to get out, and they find a way to get it out. Mine was a little more extreme, and I didn't find out until later. But after I was injured in war and I lost my best friend, I didn't know how to talk about that, but I knew I wanted everyone to know that he lived. So it's like, I can't talk about it, but I want people to know about it. How do I do this? And I figured if I had a song about his life and my life that I could share that with people and say, like, I can't tell you my story, but here, listen to my story.
Right.
And so that's what kind of led this path of creative writing and arts and trying to find new ways to tell my story without telling the story, having other people do it. And that's just led into it helping me so much that I wanted to help other veterans tell their story when they think it might not be an option. And here we are 6 years later.
It's fantastic. And one of the cool things about doing the stream now is that I'm going to be showing people how I work a day in the life in the studio. And one of the things I'm going to be working on today, after we finish our talk here, is a demo, recording a version of one of the songs that we wrote recently in the last trip to Orlando with one of the veterans there. So it'll be fun to kind of bring to life their story in a written song, and then to try to give it the right backdrop and the production.
That's awesome.
Pretty amazing process. It's a lot of fun, and it's intense, but it's the best kind of, as a songwriter, you don't get opportunities like this unless they come along, with someone's vision and people coming together to do something that makes you feel like you kind of have something to offer the world, other than always just trying to come up with the next song to maybe try to get on the radio or whatever it is. It's a real meaningful thing to be a part of. So yeah, keep going. Thanks, 6 years strong.
Thanks, sir.
And everybody's got a dog here. Maddie, sorry.
I was just thinking this should be like a when you have guests, everyone has to hold a dog.
Yeah, hold a dog. Bring a dog. Hold a dog.
I've got two. Take a dog, leave a dog.
Yeah,
take a penny,
absolutely. Yeah, it sometimes feels that way here. When I have parties, people bring over their dogs, and then there's just like buffalo stampede of smallish dogs running from the room. So yeah, if you stop petting them, they'll let you know. They'll be like, what's up with that? Okay.
Wait, there we go. Doing good.
Cool.
Are you lying?
Cool. Nice.
It's because our pets are so good.
So good. We got great pets here. So you're over here today because not only are you running a nonprofit, he's running this incredible new app, and they're launching it. You've already launched it, but it's really kind of hitting the mainstream now and getting to a bunch of different markets all over the world. Because what's so cool about this app is that you can, one of the many things, that you can be in any city in the world and connect with other songwriters and kind of put your profile out there, your photos, your music, and a little glimpse of what you do. And then you can kind of connect with other potential collaborators and songwriters in any different city, which is pretty amazing. And he came on this show. Yesterday he asked me if he could interview me for some clips to promote the app, which is called We Should Write Sometime, which is funny because that's what people say in Nashville, every night of the week, they're meeting each other downtown, Broadway or on de Montbriand. Those are some of the streets in Nashville where there's a lot of music venues. And people will say, hey, nice to meet you. Hey, I love your stuff. We should write sometime. And it's become such a cliche that now it's been turned into the name of the app, which makes everyone smile when they hear it, because it's like they've lived it and they do actually feel that way, that you want to sometimes connect with people and set up a co-write. So this app does that in a way that's never been done before.
It does.
I'm gonna ask you about it.
I know.
How does that work?
It's an awesome app. It's it kind of takes away. We're selling time to a lot of songwriters, and a lot of songwriters are, as you know too, might be introverts. To where some of the greatest people that you meet aren't the people that you're going to meet out in a bar at 3 a.m.
Right.
But that's how most people find their writes, and so it's a way for anybody to kind of sit back and see the songwriters in their area and look at their profile. Click on their music. It's set up kind of like the dating apps, Bumble and Tinder, to where if you're totally interested in the way that they write, what they do, their music, you swipe right on them. But they'll never know that you like their music unless they swipe back on you.
Never know.
Never know. Then they swipe back on you.
You promise?
They won't, unless I tell them.
Okay, Richard said, hey, yeah, we're at
and
headquarters.
we will if
we
you
just
know.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because it takes away all that. Even there's writers in town that I know and I have a relationship with, but I've never asked them to write because it just feels weird using that relationship. But if I was on that app and I saw one of them on there, I would swipe right on them, because then once they swipe right on me, I was like, oh, I should have asked them a long time ago. I just didn't think they'd want to.
Right.
But now they do, so it's awesome. Let's set up and write. But the great thing, like you said too, is being able to geolocate your profile to somewhere else, because you go out to LA, you go out to all these other places, you could geolocate your profile there first and then set up all the rights you need. And then once you go out there, you can just start writing. You don't have to worry about getting there, figuring out who's in town, trying to see what writer are on there and all that stuff. But the great thing about, I feel like, this app too, and the reason I want to talk to you was like, LA's such a hard scene for songwriters, especially. Nashville, you go to any bar on those streets that he talked about, and I mean, you throw a little quarter and you're going to hit a songwriter. And so it's just every day. People know that's kind of the standard what to do. I was out in LA for 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks in December, and I was trying to find all the songwriters I could, and I only found 2 different writers' nights, and one was like once a month, so I missed it. And then it was, every one of them was like 34 minutes away. I was like, how do I find songwriters? So I was just wondering what your take was on the songwriting scene in LA. And kind of like why this will help once it gets out there to the scene, to where there's going to be people all over.
Right. I mean, well, so when I moved out to LA, it was back in like 2005. And so in a lot of ways, it was sort of like the old school method of connecting with people. And essentially, like, I was going out and asking around, where the songwriting venues were, essentially looking up on the, like, Nashville scene, for example, shows you what all the different venues are and what's going on. LA Weekly out there. So I looked it up and found out where, like, the acoustic nights or the songwriter nights were. And there's a venue called Hotel Cafe, which I ended up spending a lot of time at. And right around that time in the 2000s, it was growing as a venue, not just in terms, it was literally growing. Every few months they were knocking down another wall, making it a bigger space. But it was becoming kind of a brand name amongst songwriters to sort of like cultivate like a real great spot to showcase and to kind of network and meet each other. So that was a really good hub. But even with that, it was kind of like I had to decide any given week how many nights I felt like going down there. And just, and just in any city, but particularly LA, going down there and finding parking and then paying cover, or wondering if you can get in for free that night because they start to know you. But the whole kind of, the hustle in a good sense, because it does take a bit of effort to get out into the scene and meet people. But to think of doing that 3, 4, 5 nights a week was a lot of wear and tear on top of having a day job and sort of like making ends meet and trying to book my own gigs and all of that. So it was a good asset there, but beyond that, it was kind of like what you're saying. It's a huge city and it's really spread out, and you wouldn't really know on any given street if you're in an area where there's songwriters, because it's the grid. It might be like what looks like an abandoned warehouse, and inside it might be full of amazing studios with producers, but you don't know unless you're kind of in the club, so to speak. Once you get to know people, you can pick up some momentum, but it really did take, at that stage, a lot of my friends and I kind of banding together and like trying to come up with our own things. Like, hey, let's get together on like a Sunday and have like a brunch and sort of jam and stuff like that. So in some ways it led to some creativity, but I always look back on it and thought like, the good thing was that I had like classmates. It was as if we were all freshmen moving to a city, and we had to sort of like look out for each other. But the flip side was that it definitely did feel like, okay, it's a steep hill to climb to get into that room, so to speak, or to get that opportunity to work with some people that might be totally willing and ready to work with you or work with me. There's a compatible fit, but it might just not be, the access might not be there. Like finding that sort of magic door, so to speak, can take a while, and it can be a game of chance and timing, which, every city has its different kind of rhythm, and LA definitely has the grid factor, the speed. You can get stuck in traffic and not want to do any songwriting.
But with every individual person, new person that you meet there, if they're hustling as hard as you are, they also have this other avenue that they went down, so you can combine your avenue with their avenue. And for everybody to connect there, it just makes you more successful, because they'll be like, hey, I just got this random songwriting gig on this like warm-up TV show thing. And you're like, well, that sounds awesome. Link me with those people.
Exactly,
and you kind of just keep expanding and expanding to the point to where I'm hoping what this app does is, no matter what area you're at in LA, you're going to have this really strong community of songwriters